Let's return to This Week in America. Here's your host, Rick Bratton.
Welcome back, everybody, coast to coast, This Week in America. Jacqueline Gates' life changed forever one wintry morning, 1987. A car hit her 10-year-old daughter, Joelle Rosebush, as she crossed the street to come home with her two siblings, Heather and Keith. After a few days, the hospital could not do anything else for Joelle, and a helicopter transferred her to a new hospital where she spent 6 months on a respirator in a pediatric intensive care unit. Jacqueline shares the whirlwind of emotion she navigated in her book, Joelle's Cry for Justice, Finding the Positive Side to Grief. Jacqueline also shares numerous poems, Bible verses, educational resources on grief, and insights on how journaling, leaning on the Lord, and drawing on her faith helped her find a positive side to grief. In her emotional upheaval, Jacqueline wrote Joelle's Cry for Justice to help others in the journey to cope with grief. Jacqueline Gates, author of Joelle's Cry for Justice, Finding the Positive Side to Grief, is our guest on This Week in America. Joelle, welcome to the program. It's great to have you with us today.
Thank you, Rick. It's my pleasure. I feel privileged to be on your show and an honor. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming on. And this is something that touches so many people, and so many of us get really to the point with grief that it's hard to bounce back. And your book is there as such an inspiration for so many people. Let's talk about what inspired you to write this story. As you're dealing, as I mentioned, with this whirlwind of emotion, why did you decide to write the book? What was the motivation for this, the inspiration for you?
The inspiration for me to write this book was my faith. I was raised in a Catholic family, and my mother always took me to church, and that faith was instilled in me. But believe me, when Joelle was hit, it was really grief-struck. And it took a long time, but I started journaling and dabbling, and then my journals became a book. And then the positive side was when I completed it, and then I knew I could help others.
And you've done that, and if you're interested, and we'll give you this information throughout the program, our guest is Jacqueline Gates. Her book is Joelle's Cry for Justice, Finding the Positive Side to Grief. You'll find the book at Amazon, the usual places, and at Jacqueline's website as well, which is joellscryforjustice.com. We will give you that information, and we'll have it, of course, up on our website so you can get information and get in touch with Jacqueline and buy the book as well. Let's talk about Joelle. I mentioned 10 years old. Tell me a little bit about her.
Joelle was a sweet little girl. She was a fast runner. She was fast in baseball, and on her gravestone it says, "Run like a deer, Joelle." And she's with her two siblings crossing the road, and it was tragic for my son. She slipped from Keith's fingers, and Keith came running to my home saying that Joelle was hit. It was the worst thing ever happening to me. But Joelle was the first right to die minor case in Michigan, and her legacy lives on. She was on life support for 18 months, and her case was heard in Judge Kuhn's chambers in Oakland County, where I had to go up on the podium and say, after I heard the bioethics committee and Dr. Kennedy, that Joelle would never recover. Then afterwards, I went up there and said I wanted Joelle to be removed from life support. It was the worst decision in my life.
I can imagine what you would, please pick up the story. I cannot imagine what you went through in making that decision. I didn't mean to interrupt. Please pick up your story there.
Then after that, Judge Kuhn, with both parents agreeing, Joelle was removed from life support in Children's Hospital August 13th, 1988.
With us
But
on
there
the,
was an injunction that was made, you know, that there was a trial,
yes.
because there was a trial. Someone said that we were, going to kill our daughter and remove her from life support. So that's what had happened for the precipitation of the trial. So that's why Joelle made history. She was the first right to die child case in Michigan, and she is in the law books. She modeled after Karen Quinlan, and her case was used for the Terry Schiavo case in Florida. So she's quite a big case.
Yes.
I kept quiet for a long time. My ex-husband, who's passed now, her father, followed a lot of cases for Joelle, and he supported a lot of families. And I was grief-struck. I could not talk, but he was on CNN, I believe. But now it's my turn to help other people. You never get over losing a child or anyone that makes an impact on your life, of losing a person that you love. But the positive side of grief is where you journal your journey by dabbling your thoughts, and then you go back after years and see your memories. And it's a part of a healing process through the stages of grief, modeled after Elizabeth Kubler-Ross.
Well, and you did that as you're writing the book, as you decide to write Joelle's Cry for Justice, Finding the Positive Side to Grief. How difficult was that for you to go back through the journals and your thought process in putting the book together? How difficult was that?
It was very difficult because you revisit the scene, and it was the most tragic thing in my life. I've been through quite a bit, and losing a child is the worst death that I've experienced. I lost my mother a year after Joelle, my father at 19, and losing a child is the worst death experience I've had.
You are obviously a talented writer in the way you're able to present your thoughts and reach out and help other people in Joelle's Cry for Justice. A gifted poet as well. In fact, there is poetry involved in your book. How long have you been interested in poetry? And you really do an excellent job of using poetry to express your thoughts.
Thank you, Rick. Poetry is like music to my ears. It just comes to me, and I write poetry in 5 minutes. I think of it, and it comes to me. The Holy Spirit just is driven in me, and I write it. I have a poem I'd like to read to you.
Yes, please do. Please do.
That is my poem. Joelle, my Noel. Joelle remembered by the frost-struck dim morning day. She's gone, but not astray, for she's ever my ever-blooming girl, not only in a swirl. Remembered at Christmas time, long ago, Joelle, my darling Noel. Thank you.
I'm glad that you read that, and just an example of what you will find in Joelle's Cry for Justice. There's poetry there, thoughts. It's a very valuable resource that Jacqueline has put together, the book Joelle's Cry for Justice. You go through the stages of grief throughout your book. Talk about how you go about doing that and how you use the stages of grief.
There are 5 stages of grief modeled after Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, a Swiss psychiatrist in the old country. And I use my experience of losing Joelle, my daughter, and my poetry is experienced with these stages and the story of Joelle. And then the final stage of acceptance, which took many years, and the stages do not come in any order, and they go back and forth throughout the years. And these stages are displayed throughout the book. With at the end of the book is empty pages where you can do your journaling and the beginning of your journey to your healing, which may take a while.
The book is receiving excellent reviews and comments, and many people saying, this book, I've read a number of books on how to deal with grief, but this book has really helped me. This is different. Explain how Joelle's Cry for Justice is different, because you approach it a little bit differently, don't you?
Yes, I do. The positive side of grief, of course, grief is, when you think of grief, you do not think of the positive side of grief. Yet through my experience, which took quite a while, upon completion of the book, I realized there was a positive side of grief. By journaling your journey and dabbling your thoughts, you do find the positive side of grief. It may take a while, but there is a positive side of grief, and keeping your support group positive and the people close to you close. And by doing that, you become a positive person in the long run. And by reading my book, you will find how to do that.
Jacqueline Gates is our guest on the program. Her book is Joelle's Cry for Justice, The Positive Side of Grief. You'll find it at Amazon, the usual places. Jacqueline's website is joellscryforjustice.com. We'll have that up on our website as well. Jacqueline, who benefits from this book? Did you have a particular audience in mind as you were writing this?
Anyone who lost a child or anyone who lost a loved one would benefit from reading this book.
And you could find information, again, by going to Jacqueline's website, joellscryforjustice.com, or looking at Amazon. And I know that you've reached out and you've had a number of different organizations, businesses that you've worked with. Talk about some of the businesses that would really benefit by obtaining a copy of your book, or obtaining copies of your book and issuing out to some of their employees when they go through periods of grief.
Of course, Rick. Hospice organizations, churches, funeral parlors. There are many organizations that would benefit. Psychologists, counselors are naming a few that would benefit from this book.
What has this been like in writing this book? Has this been a positive experience for you? I'm just thinking of all the responses you're getting and people saying, thank you for writing this. What has this experience been like for you?
I've been getting positive responses saying that they can't believe that I wrote this book and they benefited from reading it, and it was an easy book to read. They really enjoyed it.
Well,
and it really helped them out.
And that's a key, because it's very relatable. I mean, you're dealing with people who've gone through loss. You've gone through that, so you have that empathy that for other people and what they're going through and their circumstances. You're writing a new book too, I understand. Tell me about that. Oh,
well, it kind of goes in conjunction with grief, but it's on a different spectrum. It's called "It's Okay to Be Crazy." It's the new normal. It sounds pretty crazy. I've lived a life of emotional upheaval, better part of my life till 2002, and I've experienced mental breakdowns, at least 6. And I believe that there's 1 in 5 worldwide that has emotional disorders. And still to this day, there is stigma about mental illness. And I've lived it. I've worked a career, 20 years at one place, had a nervous breakdown on the job, and still worked. I've been in an institution for 2 months, was on a clinical trial, was given a medicine and didn't know whether it was a placebo, wore my heels out while walking the halls, knew it was afterwards, and it was the camel that broke the straw. And I knew from there I was going to be positive, and I just went to my appointments and kept up with my appointments with the counselors and psychologists, and brought my network of support closer, and thought I needed to get this out there to help other people as well, Rick.
Well, you're doing that because, again, you are a survivor. You've gone through this. These are issues that you've had to deal with and learn how. You did not have a book like Joelle's Cry for Justice to refer to as you were going through this, but you've created this for other people, like extending your arm and saying, I've been there. Let's hold my hand and we can get through this together. The book is Joelle's Cry for Justice, Finding the Positive Side to Grief. Jacqueline Gates, our guest on the program. A couple minutes left in the show here, and her website, joellscryforjustice.com. We'll have all that up on our website. How are you doing now? I would think that you have to be in a place of great satisfaction, what you've been able to do, and you're a survivor, and you're helping other people get into survivor mode as well. What has this been like for you?
It's been good. I'm also a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma survivor, so I'm a very positive woman. I think if you lead a healthy lifestyle, that includes eating right, sleeping good, being around positive people, you're going to be in an okay position to deal with chronic illness and maintaining a good lifestyle. All around.
About 30 seconds left here. You mentioned that maintaining a positive lifestyle. How important was that for you to find something positive so you could keep going and you could keep other members of the family going as well?
Oh, yeah. I had to help a lot of people. Your faith, your eating habits, eating good food, and talking to yourself, meditating, and having a good support system and being around positive people.
We're taking another couple seconds here. The power of journaling. Talk about that. There really is power in writing your thoughts down, isn't there?
The power of journaling, even if it's swear words, nasty thoughts about your grief, they're all normal. Anything is normal in grief. I worked in Elmont. I was a teacher. I wrote my own story, and I was teaching, and I came home and I yelled at the pits of my stomach, and I journaled that. Anything is normal in grief. I went in the woods and yelled. I journaled that. Anything is normal in journaling. And it all comes together when you write your journey. Anything is normal. A thought, a scribble, anything is normal in your journey. Nothing is not normal. Grief is the pits of the stomach. It's hard work. Grief is hard work. It takes work. It's physically work, mentally work, but you can get through it, and there is a positive side of grief.
And you'll find that in Jacqueline's book. It's Jacqueline Gates, our guest on the program. Her book is Joelle's Cry for Justice, Finding the Positive Side to Grief. You'll find it at Amazon, the usual places. At Jacqueline's website, which is joellscryforjustice.com. Joelle is Joelles, joellscryforjustice.com. If you go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, you'll get information where you can go directly to Jacqueline's website, get information on the book, and so much more at our website. Jacqueline, the time has gone by way too quickly. Thank you for being with us on the program today. You've helped people, I'm sure, during the course of this program. You're continuing to help people with being public, being out there with the book and touching lives in a very dramatic way. Thank you for sharing your story with us on the program today.
Thank you, Rick. Have a blessed day.
You as well. With us on the program, Jacqueline Gates, Joelle's Cry for Justice. Finding the Positive Side to Grief is her book. Website, joellscryforjustice.com. We're back on today's program after these messages.
This Week in America is online. You can visit our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Scott Pinkerton, Associate Producer of This Week in America. Jay Anderson, Segment Producer. Ben Watson, Webmaster. Otto Bechet, Director of Engineering and TV Production. This Week in America produced and is a trademark of Blue Funk Broadcasting, LLC. For information on all of our guests and to listen to this week's show, our website again at thisweekinamerica.us. And I'm Sean Bratton, Executive Producer of This Week in America.